Hey guys, I'm back with another video. I haven't I haven't put out a video in a while because I was on vacation and I've just had a lot of stuff to do lately. So this is the first one that I've put out in a while, and it's going to be over graveyard, uh, kind of generic, general graveyard strategy. So this first replay is by Survival Man from the clan Jesus is Risen. He's a very good graveyard player, and at the time that I got this replay, he was in 4,000 trophy range and about to get to 4,300, I believe, with this deck. So it's powerful deck. Graveyard is a legendary, as you saw earlier, and it's very hard to upgrade. So you got to take that into account when using it on ladder. Commons are what I generally go to because I like to be able to upgrade them. However, Graveyard's a very powerful card, so I mean, it'll balance out, hopefully. The last thing that was just on the screen, it said to use a tank with your graveyard because your graveyard will do some damage by itself, but it will do a lot more damage when the tower is being distracted by something like a knight or a giant. So, my favorite card to combo with the graveyard or to put in a graveyard deck is definitely the poison, because it destroys little swarm units like skeleton army, goblin gang, archers, minions, and it'll even kill, if you place it right, it'll kill an Electrowiz if they place that to defend it. And then arrow, zap, and fireball also can be used. I wouldn't suggest like lightning, or log really doesn't work too well because it won't reach the troops in the back. So Survival Man here, he's playing pretty consistent, isn't overextending, and it's a close game up to now. You can see that he has Bowler and Giant as his main tanks for the graveyard. However, if he has an Electrowiz coming down the lane from a counter push, he could use that in combination with the graveyard, because the Electrowizard will do a good amount of damage to the tower while the graveyard is tanking for him, and he'll also probably tank a shot or two for the graveyard. So here we see a really big graveyard push that Survival Man's going in for, and he's about to take out this tower with this monster push. Right here, I personally, like I said, I would rather have poison in this deck because it won't take stuff out as fast as a fireball, but it's more reliable in my opinion. And so that's good game. He defended very well and didn't overextend. Make sure not to overextend in single elixir. You don't want to do many graveyard poisons in single elixir because you can get counter pushed very hard and you don't have enough elixir to defend. So this is me. I prefer cycling graveyard decks more than beatdown, which is giant graveyard. I prefer to have an Electrowiz and a Knight as my tanks, and kind of Bowler too. I have Bowler in this deck. And so I'm able to cycle more graveyards, and I'm also able to cycle defenses more. And in this game, cycling is a very important aspect to it. A lot of people don't understand how to cycle or why it's important, but being able to cycle cards faster than your opponent often can be the difference in a match. So here, looking back at it, I think I might have... No, I don't do the poison. If I would have poisoned, that would have been overextending a lot. Sometimes you need to sit back and accept that you didn't take out the tower, but you did some damage, and you need to defend. And here are those stupid elite barbs that once again do about 1 million damage per hit with the OP Electrowiz. When I recorded this, he hadn't been nerfed yet, so pretty solid defense. I'm a little bit down, I think. I'm about to start up a Bowler in the back, which is very good for splashing some support troops behind the giant skeleton or behind any tank. and it also will, like I said, tank for the graveyard because it has definitely a good amount of HP. So he puts down an Electro Whiz here. I have to put down something to block that Electro Whiz so it won't reset the Inferno. Always make sure to do that, guys. Don't let that Electro Whiz get through to reset an Inferno Dragon or Inferno Tower, or even if you use Sparky. You definitely want to block him if possible. And so here you see I kind of went with a naked graveyard with poison. I didn't get a whole lot of damage, but I guess I did it because I had plenty of elixir and I knew I was up at that point. Personally, I think Inferno is one of my favorite cards for sure. Probably my favorite defensive card because it's so consistent and it can defend a multitude of cards. It defends the big troops very well. It also defends Royal Giants, which can get pretty annoying. So there's a value poison, getting the archers and the elite barbs. Once again, didn't get a whole lot of damage, but I'm looking more to get chip damage in this deck and then defend well. So here, building up a pretty good push. Coming, it's a counter deck, so you want to use your counter troops from your defense, and then they'll kind of support your graveyard by either tanking or by hitting the tower because your opponent's tower is locked onto your graveyard. For instance, if you have a musketeer coming down the lane and you use your graveyard to tank for it, the musketeer can do some heavy damage because the graveyard's tanking for it. So here's, I placed it a little differently this time. It could have hit the king tower if I would have gotten unlucky, and I did that because I didn't want the skeletons to get distracted by the giant skeleton, and so I ended up finishing the game, and I probably would have been able to defend that because I didn't overextend too much. So this last replay is done by my dad. He prefers to use a giant graveyard, which is more beat down, giant graveyard poison, and it's probably it'll be more consistent. Freeze spell is also used with graveyard. If you have good cards to deal with big counter pushes, that's okay to use. Like if you have a wizard or an executioner, that's fine to use. However, if you don't have a lot of good splash, they can build up a very big counter push, which can end up biting you and taking a tower possibly. So really focus on with graveyards not overextending, and sometimes you got to give up on a graveyard push and not put down the poison. You've just got to accept that you didn't get much damage and try to build some more elixir so that you can defend. And sometimes also another thing that I don't see people doing enough is sometimes people need to take damage on their tower and not spend elixir so rapidly. So if a Mega Minion's coming down the lane and you have a zap in hand and you only have 2 elixir, it's probably best to just let the Mega Minion get 1 hit or 2 and take about 200 or 300 damage, maybe 400, instead of wasting that elixir. So here he's been playing pretty consistently, playing defense. He hasn't really played many graveyards because, like I said, this graveyard deck won't cycle as much, and it's not as quick, so he'll put it down less times in a game. And so this is the beatdown push coming up here. He knew that his opponent would probably be defending with Inferno or minions, and so he just ignored the Inferno because it tanked enough for the skeletons that they could build up and do a lot of damage to the tower. So here he tries to go for a little counter push. It doesn't really go too well. Actually, it was a waste of elixir because the giant went down pretty easily. So he is forced to defend this and does a good job. The opponent zaps the tower, but has barbarians to make sure to defend that, and it goes for an aggressive graveyard, which ends up, I believe, putting the game away right here. Okay, no. So he has to defend one more time. And the thing that I like about the Electro Wiz with the Inferno is that he'll reset the Royal Giant onto the Inferno. That's a very good thing that the Electro Wiz can do. I'm kind of sad that he got nerfed because he was in a lot of my challenge decks, which is probably why he got nerfed, is because everyone was using him. So, I mean, it's win-lose. Less people will be using him on me now, but I'll be using him less and less since he got nerfed. So here, another little push. He ends up getting the tower, and I guess the other guy's not too happy about that. So, hope you liked it. The Graveyard is definitely a good card. If you can upgrade it to level 3, that's definitely very good, or 4 or 5, that's even better. I doubt many of you will have that. It's still a very good win condition. I still prefer commons because I can upgrade them better. If you use this type of deck though, a Graveyard, I highly suggest using poison with that because of the ability it has to kill most of the counters to a Graveyard. And also one more thing, actually two more things. Whenever you see hard counters like a Valkyrie or maybe like a Bowler, sometimes you gotta wait for your opponent to play that until you play your Graveyard. And then lastly, don't overextend with it because you can get hit very hard back if you do that.